from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on AgDay, EPA releases the latest renewable fuels volumes. Plus, the opioid epidemic is taking a tremendous toll on farmers and agribusiness from milk to cheese.
China has a real strong appetite for proteins right now. Cheese is one of them.
We'll find out about the importance of toe strap safety on Farm Journal College TV, and we'll look at the impact of women in agriculture.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The Environmental Protection Agency finalizing its renewable fuel standards of how much ethanol and biodiesel can be blended into the nation's fuel supplies, and those levels are roughly equal to this year's numbers. Betsy Gibbon has more. Betsy.
The EPA meeting its deadline, announcing its RFS standards for the 2018 as well as the biomass-based diesel for 2019. Corn producers relieved at a very small uptick in renewable fuel requirements, while biodiesel producers say the EPA did not listen to their plea. Total renewable fuel volume comes in at 19.29 billion gallons, with 15 billion gallons of that coming from ethanol. Diesel for 2018 moving, and 2019 levels are unchanged. Advanced biofuels also remaining static, while cellulosic ethanol is lowered for 2018. EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt saying the standards, quote, ensures stability in the marketplace and follows through with my commitment to meet the statutory deadlines and lead the agency by upholding the rule of law. Most farm groups saying they're comforted to see the EPA keep a commitment to an RFS standard. However, they're disappointed in the numbers, especially with cellulosic.
But part of the reason that hasn't happened at the pace we all would love to see is because of the uncertainty in Congress. And if you're looking at investing millions upon millions of dollars in capital to produce cellulosic ethanol, you have to second guess yourself because you don't know what the next year is going to bring as far as motivation out of Congress.
The biodiesel industry saying the EPA has failed to respond to repeated calls for growth, saying, quote, flat numbers will harm Americans across several job-creating sectors, be they farmers, grease collectors, crushers, biodiesel producers, or trucks, as well as consumers. Biodiesel is concerning corn growers more than it has in the past. Representatives with the Renewable Fuels Association saying a big bulk of advanced biofuels, as well as biodiesel and cellulosic ethanol, is coming from corn ethanol plants.
A new survey commissioned by the American Farm Bureau and National Farmers Union reveals just how bad the opioid crisis is hitting rural America, and farmers in particular. The data showing about half of rural Americans have been directly impacted by the addiction, but it gets even worse for farmers. Survey results show 3/4 of farmers or farm workers have taken an illegal dose, known someone who has or is dealing with an outright addiction. Breaking it down further, 16% of farmers and farm workers say they have personally struggled with addiction. That's more than 3 times the rate in the rural population as a whole. 2,200 people responded to the survey. The Bayer Company continuing to work toward its planned takeover of Monsanto. The CEO telling a conference this week that the EU antitrust review is going to, quote, unimaginable depths. He says they've now delivered more than 4 million pages of documents to the EU Commission. Despite the scrutiny, he's still confident the deal will close early next year. USDA releasing a fresh drought monitor on Thursday. Moderate to exceptional drought, now covering more than 21% of the contiguous United States. Dryness, it stretches across more than 40% of the lower 48. We see pockets of D3 drought also starting to appear in Arkansas, 15% of the state now in that category. It was 0% last week. Out in California, the maps are showing parts of California starting to dry out once again as well. Mike Hoffman is back and has a look at cotton harvest in today's Crop Comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Our first crop comment comes from Quentin Shieldnight in Spearman, Texas. Quentin is moving right along with cotton harvest. Work isn't so bad when you have a sky like this. USDA says 71% of cotton has been picked, 2 points above the 5-year average. Moving to Iowa, Ryan Heiniger sending us this photo of the 3rd generation teaching the 5th. Times like these create lifelong memories on the farm. And taking a look at the drought monitor, we'll take a closer look at this coming up. But you can see the area of extreme drought that is now developed in southwestern Arkansas. We'll have details on that and your forecast coming up in a few minutes. First, here are some hometown temps.
Farm Journal On Air is the go-to app for American agriculture. AgDay, AgriTalk, U.S. Farm Report, and more. 24/7 access to all of your favorite shows, TV and radio. In your hands, on demand. Farm Journal On Air. Download the app today.
This week, our partners at Top Producer Magazine hosted their Executive Women in Agriculture Conference in Chicago. And the meeting gathers women, many of whom are the principal operators on their farms. This year's theme, Empowering and Connecting Farm Women. Well, today, this isn't just a U.S. farm focus. In Australia, nearly half of all farmers are women, but it's only been in recent times they've been acknowledged for their important role. Sally Jones walks among her dairy herd near Melbourne, Australia. She's a farmer and proud of it. But that title, farmer, is something her mother could never put on her resume.
Mum never referred to herself as a farmer, but I think it was probably a combination of imposter syndrome and lack of confidence.
While women have always played a major part in agriculture, they were rarely officially recognized. Until 1994, a woman couldn't even call herself a farmer on the Australian census.
Mum had amazing energy and ability to make things happen, juggling 4 children, a farm, a factory, retail shops, bookwork, the whole bit.
Other women in Australian agriculture remember a time when it was harder.
I studied agriculture, and at that stage there were various institutions I couldn't attend because they didn't have facilities for women.
Today, the Australian Bureau of Statistics says women account for 49% of farmers. And this fall, a museum showcasing women of agriculture opened in Melbourne. It helps tell some of the stories from the land down under. Catherine Forge is the museum's curator.
Where are the women? There was a lot of agricultural machinery, but where were the stories of what women were doing on farms?
Back at Gippsland Dairy, Sally Jones agrees that women in farming now need to have their voices heard, and she hopes she can act as an inspiration.
I don't want to put my imposter hat on and say, oh, I'm not worthy, but I just hope that I can potentially be an inspiration to other women to step up and to find their voice in rural areas.
Well, later, we'll continue our Women in Agriculture focus. I'll have some thoughts and personal insights to what I witnessed growing up. But first, when we come back, we'll talk dairy and cheese markets from that EWA event in Chicago. And later, the importance of choosing the right toe strap when getting pulled out of the mud.
Receive a free trial of the Daily Grain Plan newsletter from Roach Ag Marketing. Text Roach to 31313. Start your subscription today by texting Roach to 31313. Unlock the power of ag technology this December in Indianapolis at the first ever Ag Tech Expo. Learn all about it at farmjournalagtech.com.
In agribusiness, while the Dow saw a big surge in early trade Thursday, commodities were mixed. Let's get details from the floor of the CME, Chicago.
Corn market traded both sides of unchanged here on Thursday, but did spend most of the day in positive territory. Our December futures contract, nearby December, got into the delivery period yesterday, and we did have some fairly heavy deliveries against that December contract, which is generally considered to be a bearish factor. Still, the market a little bit higher here. A lot of the open interest, of course, rolling out of that December contract, and we have seen a lot of action, a lot of volume in the spreads. The funds, of course, holding a near record short position, rolling a lot of that out into next year is the way it looks. The live cattle market traded both sides of unchanged here on Thursday, but was sharply lower here for a good chunk of the session. We had some of the contracts touch near limit down, so there was some intraday weakness here, certainly. Now, the cash cattle market has yet to be established this week. We saw nothing change hands on the Fed Cattle Exchange yesterday. Last week, we had cash cattle trade in the 118 to 120 range. I think a little bit of 120.5. We do know that the box beef has been quite a bit weaker here, posting some 1-month lows this week. Choice boxes were under 206 at the last quote here that I saw here today, and may have even drifted lower at midday. So the box is under a little bit of pressure, and futures kind of following along here. Perhaps that'll translate into a weaker cash trade here later this week. Again, Joe Vec from CME Group here in Chicago.
Milk production has been strong in 2017, so how's that translating into the cheese market? Tyne Morgan asks a question from the road in today's analysis.
Here now with Naomi Bloom of Stuart Peterson. Naomi, when we look at these dairy prices, for dairy farmers, not where we want prices to be. However, there was a little news recently out of China when it comes to cheese. What was that and how will that impact us?
China has a real strong appetite for proteins right now. Cheese is one of them. So they are lowering import tariffs on certain types of cheese. So that's real good news for the United States. We have a strong export market to that area. And now this is going to allow that to continue and grow a little stronger. So that's a great news story. Right now the reality is that we have a surplus of cheese, and cheese prices as of late, the cash cheese prices have been lower, and that's what's been pulling that milk price down into the low $15 area, with some of the deferred contracts already seeing $14. So unfortunately, it's a supply issue. We have a lot of milk, we have a lot of milk products, but hey, maybe we're going to see some more export demand in the form of cheese, and every little bit helps.
Right, so lowering that tariff, how big of an increase do you think we could see in exports to China? I mean, is it enough really to fix this massive supply that we have on our hands?
It's enough to just keep the doors open. I don't know how much of an increase it's going to do, because of course a lot of that goes with currency fluctuations as well. And we have competition from Oceania. I would say though that it's going to hopefully see a small increase in the cheese exports, and any bit that we can have. Cheese lately has, like I said, been leading that milk market, and the exports in general need all the help they can get.
So heading into 2018, kind of what's your outlook for milk prices?
I would say we're ready to have a little bit of a recovery bounce. Maybe another 50-cent rally here, but then some sideways trading into first quarter because milk production is so strong.
Yeah, and that doesn't seem like that's going anywhere, right? I mean, it continues to be pretty strong.
Yeah, up 1.4% in the last report.
All right, Naomi, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll take a short break, and then we'll be back with more Ag Day.
To discuss marketing strategies, call 800-334-9779 or visit stewartpeterson.com. Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers don't just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize it. So corn crops give the max in return. Learn more at maxinmaxout.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, as we look at the Drought Monitor, we can see how it has dried out many parts and pockets of the southern U.S.
Yeah, really. It's kind of centered on southwestern Arkansas, but it's expanded in all directions, just like you said. So you can actually see that has become the focus. There's still the problems in western South Dakota and northeastern Montana, and there's some developing dryness in the Carolinas down into Florida, as you can see. So things we'll be watching, obviously, as we head through the next few months. This is back 4 weeks ago. You can see how much worse it has gotten, especially in the southern portions of the plains there, kind of centered from Texarkana on up towards St. Louis, kind of the worst areas, and those have been expanding, and all of a sudden, boom, we see that extreme area show up as well. So again, something we'll just have to watch. You know, the weather map today has lots of areas of low pressure on them. None of them strong, except the one off the west coast, which isn't really moving this way quickly. So you can follow these areas of low pressure. None of them are going to be causing too much in the way of rain. A little bit in the southeast with that one, a little bit south of the Four Corners there, and a little bit up along the Canadian border to the north, and that's about it. Other than that, high pressure and temperatures kind of a little bit above normal in most of the lower 48 for this time of the year. Now, this system will start to come in as we head into tomorrow morning with some rain, mountain snows out in the Pacific Northwest, and that'll continue to get heavier and spread southward into California as we head through the rest of the day tomorrow. This southeastern system moving offshore, so don't have to worry too much about that one. Precipitation estimate past 24 hours, not a whole lot, lower 48, but you can see a little bit there in Alabama and Mississippi, southern sections especially, adding in the next 36. We don't add much in the east, and we're starting to add some out west. Snowfall is kind of the same idea, not a whole lot anywhere, but the far northeast, far northwest, you've had some, and we'll add some more in the northwest, even into the mountains of northern California eventually. High temperatures today, these are comfortable numbers for this time of the year. For the first part of December, 40s and 50s there for highs, 70s by the time you get to the Gulf Coast. Low temperatures tonight going to stay in the 30s and 40s across most of the Corn Belt, 50s in the southeast, so not bad at all. And same idea tomorrow, although we'll start to warm up a little bit there in Texas into Oklahoma. Here's the jet stream, and this is what we've been talking about for several days now. Here comes the first trough as we head into next week, and then energy just feeds into it. This is going to be a shot of really cold air for the eastern two-thirds of the country by the end of next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, Ely, Nevada, sunshine, rather cool today, high temperature of 55 degrees. Springdale, Arkansas, comfortable with lots of sunshine, high of 62. And finally, Syracuse, New York, mostly cloudy, a morning rain or snow shower in some areas, high 41.
Being stuck in the mud with machinery is no laughing matter. Next on Farm Journal College TV, we'll discuss the importance of toe strap safety and later the role of women in agriculture and how the numbers are changing.
AgDay, brought to you by Alivo Seed Treatment from Bayer. Protect your soybeans from SDS and nematodes this season. Farm Journal College TV is brought to you by Instinct and N-Serve. Maximize every nitrogen application so your crops deliver the max in return. Learn more at maxinmaxout.com.
Getting stuck seems to be an unavoidable part of life on the farm or ranch, but did you know people die every year while trying to get unstuck? On Farm Journal College TV, Purdue University's Fred Whitford discusses the importance of using the right straps for pulling stuck machinery out of the mud.
And what I wanted to show you was, things look the same, and the importance here is if we can see the difference. Can you see the difference in the two?
Sure, absolutely.
What's the difference to you?
No, well, they look a little thicker on one side than this one.
You betcha. And notice that this one has an attachment to it.
It sure does.
So anytime you see things with attachments to it, and I've got these particular ones here, I've got more in the background, these are meant for holding the loads on the trucks and trailers.
Okay.
Those are the tie downs.
Tie downs,
yes.
Right. Difference.
Yes. These are, they're recovery straps, recovery ropes. You'll see people with ropes. And the difference is these will actually stretch. Oh. These have no give.
Okay.
All right. We had 2 years ago, a farmer decided to use one of these to show his son how to get unstuck. And he hammered on what he was pulling, and when he got to the end, he didn't have a seat belt or nothing on. It jerked him out of the seat and broke his neck, and he'll be paralyzed for the rest of his life. There's no give. It's extremely dangerous, though we always do it. I mean, it's just commonplace, I guess. So these are, in fact, what we call recovery straps, and the ropes to go, and they're rated. Okay. And you can actually get a rating on this one. And they come 30,000, 50,000, 100,000. So if you looked at this piece of equipment here,
sure, that's
behind
giant
us,
combine here behind us,
and you think of the weights, and you're trying to pull some beast like this out. You better have something more obviously than this, right. And they do make them.
Some potentially life-saving information from Fred there. Thanks a lot. When we come back, a look at the role of women in agriculture today.
Shop Machinery Pete's Cyber Sale from November 27th to December 4th. Find special reduced price deals on all types of equipment from dealerships across the country. Make a purchase and receive $200 extra holiday cash. Visit www.machinerypete.com/sale. In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. See the hardest working tractors in ag at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
This week, Top Producer held its annual Executive Women in Agriculture event in Chicago, and like always, it's a great networking and educational experience for those in attendance, and frankly, it's important for the future of our industry. Statistics show more women are choosing farming as a career. USDA says there are nearly 970,000 female farmers in the U.S., or 1/3 of the nation's total, farming more than 300 million acres and providing an economic impact of $12.9 billion annually. Now, that number of women working as farmers has nearly tripled in the last 3 decades, creating one of the fastest growing segments in the industry. Although the last census of ag did show the number of women who were principal operators fell 6 percentage points to 14% of the total U.S. farmer population. It may be just a blip on the gender trend radar, however. A new survey of young farmers and aspiring farmers shows 60% of that group, the next generation, are female. I think back to my experiences growing up in agriculture, and while I suppose men often called themselves a farmer or rancher, their wives and or daughters were always just as involved. When my granddad went to a farm credit meeting, who did the chores? My grandmother did. Who drove the grain cart, mowed the grass, all while taking care of the kids, the house, and the meals? That was my grandmother. The now 96-year young matriarch set an example her daughters are following today, and I hope my daughter will exemplify in the future. Women in agriculture isn't new, but it's about time their work gets counted appropriately. That's all of our time this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From Mike Hoffman, Betsy Gibbon, and Tyne Morgan, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
Ag Day, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.